No. So some of the other herbs that you talked about, do you, I don't know if I should use the word prescribe, but do you supply them? Do you recommend that people go buy them, grow them? Like what's your best recommendation on the ones? And we can put it in the notes below to the actual names of what you listed off earlier, because I myself can't even rattle them off at this moment. But share with us the best way for people to access these mother nature's magic.
Well, what I do in my clinic is I have consultations with people and I learn about their medical history and their lifestyle and their current symptoms. And I custom blend, something for them myself. I make all my remedies by hand, the old fashioned way, and I send it to them in the mail. That's how I work. So my remedies are tailored, to each person. So like a 55-year-old woman that's perimenopausal is going to need something very different than a 25-year-old guy or a 30-year-old woman. I custom make for people. But over the years, I've also encouraged lots of people to make their own remedies. They're fun to make. Helps connect you more, with the medicine that you're taking into your own body. And so, not everyone's inclined to be a do-it-yourselfer, but if you are, then I'm always happy to help people learn how to do it and advise them on what herbs they should include in their particular formula. And there's other people that just, are very autonomous and just want to do their own thing and, don't want to make it, don't necessarily want to get it from me. And for those people, there's some simple herbs that are quite helpful. So for example, if you're lucky enough to have a backyard or a front yard or anywhere where you can grow plants, please grow lemon balm. And, for as long during the year as weather permits, in the morning, before the sun gets too hot, cut off some top leaves of the lemon balm and have some lemon balm tea. That is one of the best things that you can do, for your herpes. If you can't grow lemon balm, then try and get a lemon balm essential oil and sniff that, and you can also rub that on your skin, combined, with other essential oils or by itself.
Sniffing it it has the same impact as drinking it, like in a tea?
Well, yes. In many ways, it's also good for short-term memory loss, by the way. But
Okay.
but
Good to know.
yeah. It's the volatile oils that are the most important part of the lemon balm. That's why dried lemon balm doesn't really work for herpes. So that's why the fresh plant is the best. But both inhaling it and also applying it topically. So.
And does it grow kind of everywhere, or is it a difficult thing to grow? Can you grow it inside, like if you live somewhere where it's cold, like Canada?
It takes up a fair amount of room, so you wouldn't want to grow it out inside. But even if you had a balcony in Canada, 7 months of the year, it would still grow. It grows best in sort of open shade, partial shade or full shade. It doesn't do well in full sun. It's too hard for it. And it's a member of the mint family. It's amazing. Besides herpes, it's a great nerve vine. It helps calm your nerves. Yeah, and it smells good and it tastes good. I mean, I can't say enough about it. Another member of the mint family, the Labiaceae family, is Prunella vulgaris, also called self-heal. And it's a beautiful little flower that will spring up on a lot of people's lawns in the spring. But I would suggest, and that one can be used dried, so people could grow that, or they could just buy that dried if they wanted to include that in their formula. Reishi mushroom is a good bet for your formula. Skullcap is a good bet for your formula. Lavender is a good bet for your formula. So those are some things, but definitely lemon balm and self heal would be two of the ones that I would recommend the most if people wanted to make their own. And
Yeah, but I do like your point that, calling you and having a consultation is really an important thing, because then you can get something that's tailored, I think, for your overall health and for your, like you said, your age, your hormones, everything else that's going on. So it sounds like it can do a whole lot more than just help herpes.
sure,
Having a
yes.
consultation with you, but walk us through a little bit what that looks like. So somebody books a consultation with you and you go through what, a medical history with them, an emotional history with them. Like, what does that look like? And how do you, just give us a brief on like what people would expect coming to a session with you?
Well, first of all, they should expect to laugh or cry or both.
Okay.
I've had consultations where the people have been so upset because they've had no one to talk to.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can't even talk to their spouse. Um, you know, I'll give you one example. I had a consultation with a 17-year-old woman, a girl, I guess a girl at 17, who lived in a small town of 700 people.
Oh,
And,
wow. Wow. That's a big deal.
and she got herpes the very first time she had sex.
Mm.
And, she was, borderline suicidal because she was like, I can't tell anyone, obviously, that I know. And, who am I going to date now? And, my life is over.
Yeah.
And I, had to work really hard to sort of help her dig herself out of, and at 17, you're so emotional anyways. Um, so there was a lot of crying in that
Yeah.
consultation,
Yeah.
but, you know, but she did well. She, I give her a lot of credit. She ended up, doing, quite well and going off to university and, is good. Um, but I also try and help people laugh because I don't like the doom and gloom. And that's the one thing that bothers me about the internet. People tell me, well, yeah, I went on the internet and all there is these
Yeah.
terrible photos.
Yeah.
And these photos do not represent how 90 to 95% of people experience herpes at all. But for some reason, they want to put the most horrific photos on the internet.
Yeah.
And then in support groups on the internet, there's often a lot of doom talking, a lot of doom and gloom, and my life is over, and blah blah blah. I'm so angry and whatever. And I'm like, no, I mean,
Yeah.
this is a little minor disease, and you don't have to accept the stigma.
Well, and thinking about the anger part, do you have something that you guide people on to help them work through that anger? Because I mean, having a conversation with you, I'm sure, is amazing in the sense that they can feel heard and they can ask questions. But is there something in particular that you have them do to try to release the trauma that's around contracting the virus? Because a lot of times I have my story, everybody has a story about how it happened, and varying degrees of trauma, right? It could be that someone intentionally did it, it could be that someone had an affair, so there's like all these other things that all get infiltrated around getting that virus. Is there like a particular thing that you recommend?
Yeah, and great question again. Thank you. Yeah, there's often a lot of anger because lots of times people got herpes when they were deceived and the other person never even warned them that they had herpes. So they're angry at the person that gave them herpes. They're angry at themselves for thinking that they let themselves down by not being careful enough. Um, and my message to them is that's not really helpful thinking, because it's never a question of if you're going to get an STI. It's only a question of which ones you're going to get. I mean, no one is going to walk through this life and not have an STI unless, I don't know, unless you married your childhood sweetheart and you only had one partner, and even then you're going to have to be lucky, because lots of people got herpes by being kissed by their aunt or grandma or something. So but yeah, there's often a lot of anger. So yeah, I try and talk to them, but I also have self-hypnosis tracks that I have people listen to, and they find that quite helpful. So with the book, there's also self-hypnosis tracks that go along with the book that kind of reinforce some of the messages. and it helps people tap into, their emotions surrounding herpes, and looking at those things and starting to release those things.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have a lot of suppressed emotion around that. Yeah. So I love that you're recommending the hypnosis. It's such a great tool for so many things, but I had not thought of it really for herpes as a potential way to help release some of the suppressed emotions, whether it's, anger, shame, guilt, or whatever. Because it's also can be that someone's given herpes to someone else, and that's also, a whole nother plethora of emotions that someone can be experiencing. Yeah, having the virus and sharing the virus, and yeah.
And it can get pretty deep. So getting herpes can often be a hard hit to people's self-esteem.
Yeah.
Especially if they were struggling with their self-esteem before getting herpes. So there's a lot to unpack with those kinds of situations, and I encourage people to get therapy. I encourage people to use different tools. And I was also helped recently, like last year and this year, one of my former patients, who's now become a colleague of mine, she specializes in sort of, trauma informed support for people, and she helped me understand better that for a lot of people, the reason they're having outbreaks is they have unresolved trauma, and as you say, often unacknowledged trauma, and it can go back, a long way. And so back to our theme of, herpes being an opportunity and a gift,
Yeah.
it allows people and it incentivizes people to address that unresolved trauma that maybe they wouldn't have had as much incentive to address if they weren't getting these outbreaks to, sort of give them, a kick in the butt kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
well, I think that's also where the mind virus idea comes into this as well. I mean, we know the law of attraction, and when we fear something, we bring it closer to us oftentimes, right? And when we have no emotional attachment to something, we can release, the stress that probably comes to our body, the stress that comes to our immune system with trying to hold back an idea about something. And so, yeah, letting all of that go is so important to just release, and having a partner that can also be in that space with you, right? Having a partner that is in a position that they're okay with contracting the virus, if that were to be what the case is in the end of this, because sometimes it's unavoidable. Even though I know you have some other things that I'd like for you to talk about real quick that I think help, the gels. You mentioned it, but maybe share a little bit about what that is, because people can get that from you. I think it's a special formulation that you have, isn't it, that helps reduce the spread?